Hey guys, good evening. We're just getting started, so just bear with us while we start with this, and debate will be starting soon. Thanks. Yeah, Doomring, there's a separate one I'm going to post in the chat, and then I'm also going to do a poll, okay? Thanks, K2. I don't think that's a real thing, but thank you for your donation. Silly goose. No, Doomerang. This is... No. Hey, Gorilla. Good to see you. All right, K2. I gotta lock in, guys. I'll read your super chats and stuff afterwards, okay? Yeah, thanks for having me, Horseradish. I'm a social issues debater. I debate on this platform, YouTube, and TikTok. I also do regular weekly streams, usually 2 to 3 times a week on like content review, debate reviews. And sometimes I review my own stuff for the shits and the gigs. You can find me here on YouTube, capital A, capital V, capital G, female debater. Also on X, just with an 8 instead of the ATE. And I also have the same name on Discord. So follow me there.
Here on Twitch, I do a little bit of things. I just do streaming when I can. It's more of a hobby for me. So I do current events, politics, debates, obviously, and yeah, we're gonna crush the affirmative.
All right, I respect the confidence. Again, I do want to stress to everybody, and this is not as an excuse, it's just as a fair warning. The negative team fell apart multiple times. This iteration has only been in here for the last 3 hours, so we're going to see what crushing the prep looks like when it comes to crushing.
Much crushing, much.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in here. Gorps, you are going to tell me who is going to be your first opener.
Just before we do, gentlemen, I'm being told that there's people that can't hear the audio. They can only hear it through my mic for some reason, which is the first time it's ever happened.
Are you using
OBS
or
that
using
happens.
hold on, are you using OBS or are you using
OBS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you have OBS set up as a or Discord set up as a sound source in OBS?
Window capture.
You have to make sure that's difficult.
I have a Mac.
Being told Little Miss is still echoing. Have you double checked your thing, Little Miss?
Here.
To make sure that you're not on video ninja.
Do this real quick, ADG. I'm gonna share my screen so you can see my OBS.
Okay.
On your thing, go to sources.
Uh-huh.
Go to application audio capture, and then just click create now. You'll select a window, and you want to select the Discord live session, right?
Just a second. Where's the application audio capture? You have it differently. Mine just says audio input capture. Is that the same thing?
Hold on. Let me share the monitor that this is on. So I forgot there's a pop up here.
Yeah.
So you might also be hearing the echo through if you've got the stream up and you're not muting it.
So I'm not. Can anybody hear me now?
Yeah.
So in sources, this little plus button right here, there should be a thing at the top that says application audio capture. Do you see that?
Just a second. No. Go back to the menu again. Sources
Under
plus.
sources. Yeah, the little plus sign under sources.
Yeah.
You click that. The
Don't.
top one should be application audio capture.
I have audio
Click
input
your-
capture.
That's not it. So there's a different way to do this. Maybe. Hold on.
It worked fine the last time.
Much better.
Okay,
actually.
I don't think I'm echoing because I'm not streaming or sharing anything. It just spawns a Bluetooth. That's
Yeah,
it.
no, they said
They say you're good now.
Trying to think of another way to do this. Is your audio sliders, none of them are muted, right?
Everything other than mic right now is muted.
So this is probably going to come down to a monitoring thing.
Hold on. If everything is muted. Oh no, she said everything's muted. If global audio is muted, then that's the problem. Yours isn't going to be as complicated as mine. The one that says desktop audio right here, if this is muted, that's going to be what it is.
Exactly.
Okay, so I unmuted it and there's nothing coming up on the bar.
Not even now?
No.
Okay, then what that means, hold on. Then what that means is the output of Discord is not going to the same thing that is picking up your desktop audio. So look at the desktop audio source and compare it to the output source of your Discord. Make sure that those two match.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's Discord live session.
I'm guessing this is like for your audience on your side, Adrian.
Yeah.
She's trying to sort out her. And that's fine, we'll take all the time we need to. Nobody's in a rush.
Sorry, I mean, like, we can do it without, but I don't want them to do that. If like, yeah. Yeah, 1 second. Oh, okay, OBS. Yeah. Guys, can you hear it? Just waiting. There's 15 of them in here. There's double audio now. Video Ninja. Mine is muted. Should I also like just okay. Yeah. Okay, now. Deafen. Yeah. Okay. It's getting two mic inputs somewhere. Okay, no, not from this. Guys, good now? No, I'm talking to them. I'm talking to the chat. Still echoing. Okay. Is it? Oh my gosh. I can't. Okay, I can't mute my mic, guys, because if I mute my mic on there, they're not going to be able to hear me, and obviously I need this for you guys. So, yep. Okay. Voice and video settings. Speaker. Yeah, my AirPods. Yeah. Okay. Turmeric. Okay, guys. What about now? This is yeah. I'm gonna try to delete these. We didn't. That's why I'm like, what the frickin' frick? Oh. Now it's good. Now it's good. Okay, thank the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay. Yeah, we're good. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Thank you. Not a single person left. I love my chat. They're so great. Yeah. No, I said not a single person left. Okay. I've muted the Discord. Just a second. Just a second. I'm saying now that I'm fixed. There's no echo, but what they meant was no echo. Oh my gosh. They said there's no echo, but they still can't hear you guys. Audio. My black hole, because that's my loop back. Yep. Okay. Let's try that. Good now, guys. Nope. Desktop audio currently is, let me see, properties, black hole. Yeah. My black hole 16 channel, because Mac. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let me see. We can figure this out another time. We're just gonna do it with you guys on low volume. I'll pick you up through the mic. I'll turn up the volume. It is what it is. Okay.
Sorry, and yeah, we will definitely get this figured out for next time.
Yeah, we can't spend forever on this, right? Like this is.
Yeah, Yeah, well, I mean, but on the same token, we're all here for content, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like I don't want you to not fucking get your content. So,
I'm not here for content. I'm here to beat Razor.
Well, you're not. You're here for a good time. I know. So, all right.
Rest of us, however.
If you want, I can reach out and see if I have
pay $20. I'll let you.
If I have anybody who can like drop down into the other channel with you and see if they can pitch you, then you wouldn't be able to be paying attention to the debate. And you're going to want to. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're saying that they're at least able to hear us now, even if it does sound less than ideal.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chad. I'll figure this out for next time, guys. I apologize.
And we will definitely work with you to get that done.
Yeah, thank you, Horseradish.
So, yeah, no worries. Vigi, wrong one. Vigi, after all of that, 3 minutes, we are now going to put 3 minutes on the clock. To start the party, sir, why do you believe that people should be forced to take a comprehension test in order to be allowed to vote?
Yeah, so it is important in this debate that we define what we mean by a comprehension test. What we specifically are talking about is a political comprehension test. We want people to have to take the civics test given to people that are trying to become citizens. Basic questions like, what are the 3 branches of government, or what are the 5 rights granted in the First Amendment, and apply this to everyone who wants to vote. An informed populace is vital to a successful democratic system. And when you don't have a basic understanding of how the system works, you are simply not an informed voter. If you are asked, right, what are the 5 branches of government, the 5 rights in the First Amendment, right now, could you answer it? The Edinburgh Policy Center asked this question to voters. Only 40% of the respondents could answer with 3 or more of the rights. The most insane thing that came out of this question was the 21% of respondents that... Well, ABG, you're echoing the... Here. Okay. The 21% of respondents... Yep.
Right.
The 21% of respondents answered that the right to bear arms was protected by the First Amendment. In the same study, they asked people to name the 3 branches of government. 30% of the respondents couldn't name the 3 branches of government. Me and Razor had a very similar conversation last week, and it was established that voters being informed leads to better results. Logically, if we agree that voters need to be informed, we have a duty to prevent people from voting unless they have a basic level of civics information. Government is a high-stakes system where policies are imposed by third parties. We don't want to have incompetent people running the system, and the best way to prevent the incompetent people from running the system is to remove the incompetent voters. If you were on trial, would you want an incompetent jury that doesn't pay attention to the trial and the facts of the case? Obviously not. In jury trials, defendants have a right to a competent jury. The competence principle is something that we should utilize when considering this. It is unjust to deprive citizens of life, liberty, or property, or alter their prospects significantly by force and threat of force as a result of decisions made by incompetent or morally unreasonable deliberative body, or as a result of decisions made in an incompetent and morally unreasonable way. I see the rest of my time.
All right. And now, Razor, who is going to cross-examine Vigi?
Toka, I choose you!
All right. So, Toka, 3 minutes is now going on the clock for you. I will go ahead and start the clock when you start to talk. This is your cross-examination time. You can use this time to either question, poke holes, or set up arguments. You can also just use this time to rebut what he said. Again, it is your time to control. I'll start the clock when you start to talk. This is not your opening, though. You will get that after this.
You're muted on Discord.
You are muted in Discord.
Thank you for that. Sorry about that. So the word comprehension sounds objective, but comprehension of what? Like, do voters have to understand the Constitution, like the economy, foreign policy, and how much understanding of that is enough? Like, who gets to decide that? Suppose one person understands economics extremely well, but knows little about foreign policy. Another understands foreign policy, but has limited knowledge of economics. A third understands, neither perfectly, but has personal experience with the effects of government policy. Who's qualified to decide which one deserves a vote? The test itself would necessarily reflect the priorities and assumptions of the people who created it. A test designed by conservatives could emphasize one set of facts. A test of progressives would emphasize another. What do you like?
Yeah. Is your understanding of how the government works. Because if you can't have if you don't have an understanding of how the government works, you probably shouldn't be voting because you don't know what the fuck you're voting for.
Well, that test, the citizenship test, isn't to get that's not like a comprehension test to vote, right? Like that's your citizenship test. So if you pass that test, you're automatically given the right to vote because you're now a citizen, correct? So why would they again have to take another vote another test in order to further prove that when they just proved that they're worthy of citizenship already?
No, so I'm saying that everybody should have to take that test in order to vote. So the people who come from foreign countries and already passed that test, they wouldn't necessarily need to pass it again because they've already passed it once. Everybody else should have to pass it as well.
Okay, so you don't want them to take the test twice. So the
No,
citizenship
it would be redundant.
citizenship
Guys, welcome
test
in.
would in turn turn into the right to vote test for them as well.
For the right to vote test for everybody, yes.
So now you're born a citizen and also have to take a citizenship test on the opposite side of that.
No, it would be applying the citizenship test as a mechanism to make sure you understand what you're voting for. Because the citizenship test, what it does is make sure
that
you have a
basic right? So you were saying that
use this actual citizenship test. I'm saying use the actual citizenship test
as
a
citizens take a citizenship test is what you're saying.
To show that they understand how the government works in order to be able to vote, yes.
All right.
Well,
now, hold on, Toka. 3 minutes is up. It is now your time for opening. So now it is going to be uninterrupted opening time. 3 minutes is on the clock. I will start the clock when you start to talk.
All right, so the affirmative side begins with an appealing premise that people should understand what they're voting for. Most people would agree with that principle, but this debate is not about whether informed voters are desirable. They are. The question is whether the government should be allowed to decide who is sufficiently informed to participate in democracy. The answer is no. A comprehension test for voting creates a dangerous contradiction. In a democracy, the government is supposed to be accountable to the people, but under this proposal, the government would be given the authority to decide which people are sufficiently educated, informed, or politically competent to have a voice in choosing that government. That is putting the gatekeeper in charge of selecting the people who are allowed to choose the gatekeeper. The fundamental problem is not whether a test can be written, the problem is who writes it, what it asks, who administers it, and what prevents it from becoming a political filter rather than a genuine measure of comprehension. History has already shown us that supposedly neutral voting requirements can be used to disenfranchise people. Literacy tests in the United States were famously used to suppress Black voters despite being presented as requirements for an informed electorate. The issue is not merely the existence of a test, the issue is the power that comes with deciding who passed it. The negative therefore rejects this proposal because the right to vote should not depend on passing a government-approved test of political knowledge. I'm done.
All right. Yeah, no worries. So, Gorks, who is going to cross-examine Tokahanas?
Average female debater.
All right.
Can I go now?
Give me one. Nope. Give me one split second. Boom. Ooh, nope, wrong one. There we go. It's that one. All right. So there is definitely a bad echo coming through. I'm guessing it's going to happen whenever Toka is coming or is talking as well. So she's probably going to be coming through. So let's see. 3 minutes is on the clock. Cross-examine as you see fit.
Yeah, so Tokahanis, you said that you seem to imply that birthright should be sufficient to avoid any kind of further testing with respect to citizenship and civic requirements. Is that correct?
I was saying that natural born citizens shouldn't be required to prove their citizenship.
So where did Vigilante say that there was a requirement to prove one's citizenship? The way that I understood it, it was more of a framing of his individual ability to test knowledge.
Well, I wasn't saying it to Vigilante. I was saying it as my opening statement, but I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Because I lost my train of thought with that.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest that the echo is really, really bad. I don't know if maybe we can mute while the other person's talking. We're just going to have to make sure we don't talk over each other. So go ahead and continue.
Yeah, so just to rephrase, I don't think he said that. I don't think that's our position. It's not about proving citizenship. It's about proving your availability and your ability, rather, to participate in the democratic process. It's a knowledge test. It's not a test on where you were born.
But he compared it to the citizenship test, so that's what I was referring to.
Okay, I think that's a straw man. But I don't understand. Do you have an objection to somebody being tested for their knowledge with respect to the democratic process prior to having that privilege?
Are you asking me the question of the prompt? No, I don't believe someone should be taking a test to be allowed to vote. No.
Okay, doesn't the government already make us go through certain testing to do other things, such as to drive, for instance?
Driving requires putting other people's lives at risk, including your own. Voting does not.
Oh, sorry. So we aren't putting people's lives at risk when we vote on politicians that might send, majority, for instance, of men of a certain age to war?
Most of those men sign up for it.
Oh, sorry. Selective service doesn't exist?
It hasn't happened for a while, yeah.
Okay, so just because it hasn't happened, that doesn't mean it cannot, correct?
But it isn't happening, is what my point is. It's not happening right now.
Is selective service still a possibility?
It is in our legislation and exists, but it is not being used.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Yep, I was going to say, that sounds like you're done. No worries. Then in that case, we're going to go ahead and go to your opening. All right. AVG, 3 minutes is on the clock for your uninterrupted opening. Start up when you're ready.
All right. So from a plain view of social media posts and internet chat threads, there seems to be a lot of information sharing regarding the election process in the United States, with theories flying regarding rigged elections and a vast amount of discourse over what ought to be considered an insurrection. However, that information isn't necessarily going to help these potential voters at the polls. Statistics show that 70% of Americans fail a basic civic literacy quiz on topics like the 3 branches of government, the number of Supreme Court justices, and other basic functions of American democracy. Just half were able to correctly name the branch of government where bills become laws. And 39% did not feel well prepared to be well-informed, active citizens. This is why competency should be verified prior to the right to vote being exercised. This is not a newly invented process. The federal government already mandates tests for other societal privileges, including working in a regulated field, becoming a citizen, getting to fish, hunt, and operate firearms, as well as vehicles. And while the entirety of a nation might not be directly impacted by your hunting hobby or your ability to parallel park your Prius, they certainly will be affected by who you vote for in a federal election. If an individual cannot even fill out a ballot, they should not get the privilege of affecting the lives of millions of Americans. It's that simple. And with that, I yield.
All right. Razor, who's going to cross-examine AVG?
Boodle, I choose you.
All right, 3 minutes on the clock, Boodle, to use as you see fit. Cross-examine, rebut. I will start the clock when you start to talk.
Hey, AVG. How are you now?
Better, thank you, sir.
Hey, very well. So, you keep referring to the privilege to vote and not the right to vote. Is that how you're referring to it? You stand by that position?
Yes, I believe that voting is a privilege.
Okay, but in America, it's a right, though, right? Isn't it?
It's not absolute. That's why I say it's a privilege.
Okay, so like you draw comparisons to driving, etc., right? But those are privileges. The government can revoke that at any point in time without a person's conduct, right? So as opposed to the right to vote, which the government cannot revoke.
Yes, they
Without-
can. If you
Right.
commit a crime and you're incarcerated,
Well,
they can remove your right to vote.
I said without a person's prior conduct. So without a person committing a crime, which is their prior conduct, the government cannot revoke that right, correct?
Same as they could for your ability to drive a vehicle or to operate a firearm. Yep. Same thing.
Without prior conduct, right?
But both can be affected by prior conduct.
So what you're saying is that the way we consider the right to a vote in America should be considered the privilege to vote in America. So you're trying to change the whole nomenclature of American democracy, right?
No, not doing that at all. I'm just saying it's a privilege. It exists as a right and a technicality, but it can be revoked
Well, it's
just
a
like
right,
other
though.
privileges.
But it's a right? Like you have the okay. So is it a privilege to have freedom of speech? Is it a privilege to bear arms? Because if you commit a felony, you can't bear arms anymore. So is that a privilege to bear arms or right to bear arms?
I think you're making a mistake when you're classifying how I'm speaking about this. The reason why I refer to it as a privilege is because it's not absolute. It's a right in its legal format, right? It's a constitutionally granted one. I'm not going to deny that. However, I refer to it as a privilege because, like other rights, it can be revoked. It's not absolute.
But you're the one who brought up driver's licenses as a comparative example.
Yes. So why do you feel it's not comparative?
Because the driver's license is a state-issued privilege to drive on the highways and interstate byways of the United States of America. The right to vote is considered an inalienable right unless you violate something to have that taken away from you, unless you acted in a way that takes it away from you, right?
Yeah, I think it's a lesser form to be able to drive.
So you're trying to convert a right into a privilege for the sake of the argument.
That's a complete straw man. I'm making comparative analyses with respect to other government.
I'm using your own words.
Well, you're using them improperly. I'm making a comparative analysis between other government mandated things that we are forced to take tests for and to ensure that we have adequate knowledge for prior to us being able to exercise those abilities.
Okay, so if you're in America, I know you're not, but that's fine. But like the right to freedom of speech, what test must somebody have passed to exercise their right to freedom of speech? And as the Supreme Court has held in the United States, the freedom of speech to have political speech, i.e. the right to vote. What test must be passed to have a freedom of speech?
So that's a different category.
To answer that.
That's a category error. So the ones that I made reference to were the ability to work in a regulated field, the ability to possess and utilize a firearm, and the ability to drive. So those are ones that I think might offer comparative analyses. With respect to the freedom of speech, that's a freedom, right? It's not necessarily a right in the same capacity where there's certain privileges and certain knowledge requirements. So I wouldn't make a comparison, a direct parallel rather, between those two components of the law.
Fair enough.
All right.
Thanks, man.
So, Lulu, I'm now going to put 3 minutes on the clock for you, sir. Uninterrupted opening. Start it up when you're ready.
So we have a fundamental problem. I don't know what words are going to come out from the opposition saying it's a category error or it's a straw man or whatever kind of like debate bro, like logical terms we're going to use. We have to look at American constitutionality, right? Fundamentally, the prompt offends American constitutionality, right? Everybody here, whether you are a poor African-American person in Alabama in the 60s or whether you're a rich tech bro in San Francisco in 2026, you have the right to vote. The right to vote is fundamental to U.S. democracy. It's a federalist republic, I know, but it's a right to vote. And the right to vote does not, you don't have to know the three branches of government to know if you want to vote for Trump or Biden. You have to know the three branches of government, whether you want to vote for the mayor you know or the other guy who's coming in. So this is going more to the previous speaker's points about what the competency test would evaluate. But the point being is that the right to vote is a fundamental right in America. Every American citizen has a right to vote. It's not a privilege. We have a right in America to bear arms. We have a right in America to free speech. We have a right in America to not have troops quartered in our house. We have a right in America to due process. The only thing that can violate those rights is prior conduct by the individual. So yeah, you can have the government come and say that you don't have the right to bear a firearm anymore because you are a convicted felon. You don't have the right to vote anymore because you're a convicted felon. This presupposes an extra imposition upon the public, upon anyone who's done nothing wrong, had no rights revoked ever, in order to have to execute their fundamental right to vote. Okay? So we need to just get things very clear right now. The driver's license is a privilege. You have the privilege of going to the highways and byways of America and the local streets if you provide birth certificate, local registration, local residence, and other things depending on the state you're in, right? Then you can have the privilege to drive on the highways and byways of America. That's driver's license. That's a that's a straw man. It's not even close to counting, right? And the fact that everything else they brought up is like, okay, well, the government can suspend your right to do X, Y, and Z, to hold a firearm, right? That's not the point. The most, and this goes back to Supreme Court precedent in the United States of America. The freedom of speech, the First Amendment, the most unabridged right in America, is equivalent to the right to vote. To voice your vote, to voice your opinion in a political arena, to have political speech is the most highly guarded level. It undergoes the most strict scrutiny in American jurisprudence. So to say that, oh, you can't have your freedom of speech to voice your political opinion, to vote for whoever you want unless you pass a test, first of all, it's unconstitutional. It never passed strict scrutiny in America, so it's dead on arrival. Secondly, it's fundamentally abhorrent to American values and the way the Constitution is structured. So just don't let the other team confuse you going forward with about what a privilege is and a right is. To drive is a privilege. To have a firearm is a right unless you have a previous action that restricts that. There's nothing you can do. You're a felon, a 5-time felon. Jeffrey frickin' Epstein still has a right to freedom of speech, and Jeffrey frickin' Epstein still has a right to vote, because that's what we believe in America. That's what we believe is so fundamental to our democracy. Your speech, your vote are one and the same thing. They are united, and don't, even if we go pragmatic, like, oh, it's impossible to implement this later on, or, oh, it's so crazy, oh, the test is racist, which is all true, by the way. We can't forego this very fundamental principle that the speech is the vote. In America, you can't abridge speech for any previous action, no matter how bad you did. You can't abridge the vote either, unless you're a felon, but that's, again, against previous action, right? And with that, I yield and I'm open to cross.
That's time. All right. So, and if I did my math here, it looks like Gorps, you're going to be cross-examining Loodle. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3 minutes on the clock for you.
Glad to meet you, sir.
I will put 3 minutes on the clock for you. Go ahead and start up whenever you're ready, sir.
So, Little, is it your opinion that there is no restrictions on the right to vote other than a felon, somebody being a felon?
For whom?
Is there anybody else whose right to vote is restricted other than felons?
Do you mean, that's why I said for whom? You mean citizens, non-citizens? Like what?
Yes, for citizens.
I'm not doing a gotcha. I'm trying to figure out what you mean.
Yes, citizens. Do you think that any other citizens have their right to vote?
They all have the right to vote, yes.
Really? So I just want to say, as
I mean, not people who are under 18. Not people who are under 18.
So we have other restrictions for broad
like the age, yes,
population, right?
Okay, so I assumed the prompt was talking about people who would otherwise be eligible. Like, you're not going to give a 4-year-old a test and then let them vote and then pass the test. Are you arguing if a 4-year-old passed the test, did they get a vote?
I mean, I would make that argument. It's not my actual argument, but I would.
Okay, well,
either way. So you admit that there are other ways in which the right to vote is restricted for American citizens.
By the Constitution.
Right. So the Constitution, a living document, everything that you have cited in the Constitution has been amendments to the Constitution, not the actual Constitution itself. These are all things that are not set in stone, that can be changed. Everything that you're citing is a change to the Constitution.
Explain.
You've not cited the actual Constitution once. What you've cited has been in the Bill of Rights, which is the first, I believe, 10 amendments.
Which were necessary adoptments in order to get the Confederacy of States to pass it. So yeah, like the amendments were part of the additional part, but the Constitution would have been ratified unless all the states agreed to the Bill of Rights.
And there's now 27 amendments.
That is
why can we not make that 28?
So are you saying you have?
I'm saying that you citing this Constitution. No, I'm saying that you citing the Constitution as if that can never be changed is.
I never said it can be changed. I said it's. Oh, well, thanks. I agree that I'm retarded. Thanks.
No, I didn't call you. I called the argument. Anyways, so
I made the argument, so close enough.
You admit that there's restrictions on voting other than felony status. You admit that the Constitution is changeable. So you admit both of these things that are the basis of your argument.
Okay. If you file a claim in court, right? It's a first petition, right? And you realize, oh, there's something we need to add in. You filed the first amended petition. Does that undo the first petition? No, it's an amendment to the petition. It's the same document, stuff added in. So for you to fucking try to weasel out and say, oh, the Bill of Rights, the amendments aren't part of the Constitution. No, they are. They're amendments to the Constitution. It's a semantic argument that also bullshit on its face. So come on.
Okay, so let's talk about the Constitution then.
Let's.
The 15th Amendment is the right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state
14.
on account
Hey,
of
14.
race,
Hey, not 15.
color,
You said
or
15.
previous
14.
Sorry, my bad.
Can we get it right?
On
Let's get it
account
right.
of race,
If we're
color,
gonna get it
or
right,
previous condition of servitude.
That's
We
the
are not
14,
proposing that be broken. What we are
right?
proposing.
Nobody
fits
said you
within-
said that.
I know, but what we are proposing is allowed by the current Constitution.
No, it's not.
All right. All right. So 3 minutes is up. We're going to go ahead and go now to your opening GORPs. 3 minutes is on the clock, uninterrupted. Start it up when you're ready.
I stand on the affirmative because a democracy cannot function if its voters cannot understand what they're voting on. The right to vote is sacred and it's also powerful. Any powerful civic tool requires a minimum level of competence to be able to use it responsibly. We already accept this principle everywhere else in society. You need a license to drive a car, you need a certification to practice law or medicine, you need training to operate machinery, yet the single most consequential civic act, choosing the people who control trillions of dollars, command the military, and write all the laws we live under, requires no demonstration of even basic comprehension. Uninformed voting has measurable consequences. Multiple studies at this point have shown that a large portion of the electorate cannot identify their reps, misunderstand major policies, or vote directly against their own stated interests. When voters cannot distinguish fact from misinformation, elections stop reflecting the will of the people and start reflecting the will of whoever manipulates them most effectively. A comprehension test is not about gatekeeping, it's about ensuring that every vote cast is a meaningful vote. The comprehension test protects democracy from weaponized ignorance. Modern political campaigns spend billions exploiting confusion, fear, and misinformation. Bad actors, whether they are foreign or domestic, rely on the fact that many voters do not understand how government works. A basic test on civic structure, ballot comprehension, or political literacy would raise the floor of the democratic participation. It would make manipulation harder, not easier. It would make elections more reflective of informed judgment rather than an emotional reaction. The test also actually expands equality rather than restricting it. Right now, voters with higher education or political literacy have a disproportionate influence simply because they understand the system better. A universal comprehension requirement levels the playing field, ensures that every voter, regardless of their background, has the same baseline understanding, and importantly, the government would be required to provide free, accessible education and practice materials, meaning this policy would increase civic education nationwide. And to address what some of the opponents have brought up, this is not like a literacy test of the Jim Crow era. What we're talking about is a citizenship test that already exists, that we already use widely, and we already view as unbiased. The tests would be designed to empower voters. The standard would be transparent, uniform, and publicly available. The purpose is not to push people out, it is to prepare people to participate meaningfully. A democracy where voters understand the ballot is a stronger democracy than a democracy where voters are confused. In short, voting is a right, but it's also a privilege and a responsibility. A comprehension test doesn't undermine democracy, it protects it, it ensures that every vote cast is informed, intentional, and reflective of genuine civic understanding. If we want elections to truly represent the will of the people, we must ensure the people understand what they're voting for.
All right. And once again, if I've been keeping track, Razor, you are going to be cross-examining GORPs. So get ready for that. I do want to remind you, Vigi, just so that you know, you will be the one who is cross-examining Razor when this is all done. So 3 minutes is on the clock for you, Razor. Your time to use as you see fit. I'll start the clock when you start to talk. You also have to unmute them.
Couldn't really summon myself, so had to toss the ball away. Hey, Gorbs, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mr. Mouseman.
I would take offense to that, but I will not this today. So, quick question about this this test. Who's administering it?
It would be a test that you sign up for a time and take by the federal government, or the states could do it if it's all uniform.
And so you're saying like the federal government would administer this test, or the states themselves being double sure?
I'm saying either could.
Either could. So you would. So do you not think that there would be some form of nanaganery where they might lose a test or two because they don't like the idea of this particular group voting?
Well, if they lose a test or two, you can go take the test again until you pass. So yeah.
Even all the way up to voting day type of thing, or are you wanting to, or you?
Yeah. You could do it.
Is it for every time? Is it like every time you vote that you have to take this test?
No, you just have to pass once.
Just have to pass once. So no idea.
Yeah, like I would suggest this actually be administered. For example, senior year of high school. There's a day in school where you spent the last week learning about this, and then a week before the last day of school or whatever, if you're 18, you just take it at school, and you're done. Easy.
So is there some like broad? So it would be some broad questionings, like state to state, or is it like I said? I'm trying to be sure you're talking about like specifically. It is the federal government doing this to all the states, who then have their own small version of it.
I would say that the federal government probably makes like a mock-up of it, considering the federal government already makes the citizenship test. And then it probably should be like specifically administered by the states, considering the states control voting.
So it has to be it would have to be federally mandated then, the type of test, in order to make sure that everyone
anything that you want to change nationwide would be federally mandated. Yes.
Obviously. I'm unsure if I can ask any more questions.
You done? All right.
Yep.
Then in that case, we'll go to your opening, Razor. Final opening. 3 minutes is on the clock. We'll start up when you start to talk.
As we have heard today so far from both my teammates and from the affirmative, the idea of using a test doing a test like this could end up being detrimental to the voter base. Would there be a way to possibly put in more education towards getting people ready for these tests? Sure, red states wouldn't do it because majority of the time red states are underfunded for their education. They don't ever want to fund their education, in which case they keep a certain populace, usually black, from being educated well enough to be able to possibly even take this test. And for this idea of because if you understand our current issue going on, we have about a 57% or so illiteracy rate in America, where people just straight can barely read above I think 8th grade level, maybe 4th grade. I'm missing it. I might be misremembering the numbers. It is just true that if we were to have some tests like this, whoever is in power could easily fuck with the test. Say, hey, the law says now we have to take it every single new cycle of voting. So retake the test. We have purged the voter rolls. Take the test on the day of. Oh, you didn't get the education because we said we weren't going to fund the education here? Oh, well, this is something that's going to be called the power privilege continuum. The people in power will use their privilege of being in power at that time to continually keep their power by administering these tests whenever they feel like they can. And so having this in law, like you're saying, we could change the Constitution. I'm not disagreeing with you. The founders said that we should be doing that. That can end up being an issue with this specifically, because then you will have them say, instead of taking only one and you're good, you get enough people in power after tricking enough people, they can say, actually, everyone's voter rolls have been purged every single voting cycle. You have to take the test again in order to vote, which creates a bureaucratic cycle of nonsense, which also creates pure chaos. And then all the people who are currently in power stay in power and hand off power to their rich buddy and friends. I don't see why we would need this. This is taking away democracy because you say that people should have more information when they won't get that information because the people in power will keep it from them so that they never have to lose power to a populace that actually would want to vote in someone better.
right. And now we are going to go ahead and go to, that would be A1, 3, A3, and N1. No. A3.
It's
Jesus. I know. A3 in 1. I'm very, very, very tired, y'all. Boom! I fucking did it.
Hey,
Vigi.
Thanks for doing it, buddy. You got it.
I'll get there, guys. Fuck off. You know what? I haven't left myself muted yet, so I'm trying to catch up. All right, 3 minutes is on the clock. Vigi, this is your time to use as you see fit. Cross-examine as you will. I'll start the clock when you start to talk.
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions from the test that we're talking about, right? Name one branch of the government.
Federal.
Just name one.
Judicial. Sorry, I was being really stupid.
I was gonna say what?
Sorry.
Who's in charge of the executive branch?
President.
Who makes federal laws?
Congress, which is the executive. It's
What are
Congress,
the two
which
parts
is
of
the
Congress?
legislative.
Yeah. What are the two parts of Congress?
House and Senate.
How many U.S. senators are there?
100? I know it's like, I always see 50-50, 47, 59 weird numbers whenever I see the votes.
That's because some people don't show up and don't vote. That's what causes that. But yes, you're right. It's 100.
Two,
So, like,
2%. I know that part.
Yeah, these are the very basic types of questions that we're talking about, right? You said like this is something that like red states wouldn't talk.
Just real quickly to understand that, asking these questions to me, someone who actually does care about politics, doesn't really show anything other than that I understand it.
Yeah, I was showing the types of questions that are asked because they're very basic questions, right? So you said that the like red states wouldn't necessarily want to teach this stuff in schools, right? Who teaches what's taught, or who controls what's taught in schools?
Usually it's going to be the state. Usually it's going to be the state legislature. There'll be curriculums for different states. Like in Texas, they are getting the school voucher thing going in, and they're trying to get the school voucher things. And some schools are losing funding because they have curriculum they don't like or something.
The states have very little control of what the curriculum is. The federal government actually has more control over what's taught in schools than the states do. The Department of Education rules what is taught in schools.
Well, I know the Department of Education at least covers. I know the Department of Education at least covers like colleges and stuff, and like the bare minimum of like funding towards certain public schools, which that's funded.
Yeah, no, in order for schools to actually get public funding, they have to meet the education standards outlined by the Department of Education. So if we
and who's currently in charge of that, by the way?
The Republican Party.
Very specifically, one of the McMahon. Very specifically, I think her name is Sarah McMahon or something like that. I forget her name. Like she's
Vince McMahon's wife. Yeah, Vince McMahon's wife. Which
so she's in charge, and she says, "Cool if we don't teach this. If we don't teach this, that's her covering the fact that she's not that these schools are no longer needing to teach these things, right?"
Yeah, and wouldn't red states actually be incentivized to teach this? Because I mean, statistically speaking, if when we talk about this stuff, like which side of the political aisle tends to have less media literacy when we actually look at the studies on that?
You're the Republicans.
All right,
so they would be more incentivized to teach this, wouldn't they?
Let me go ahead and jump on in there, Vigi. So that is the end of our openings and cross examinations. We are ready to jump into the champion rounds. I've done the math, and it looks like our first pairing is going to be boom. There we go. Vigilante and Loodle Miss. So we are now going to put 10 minutes on the clock for this. The two of y'all, this is an open conversation, free forum. Pick up where you guys left off or take it in a completely different direction. Entirely up to you. I'm just going to go ahead and start the clock, jump right in.
Hello, darkness, my friend. How you doing, Mitch?
Hey, buddy. Starting question
go ahead.
for you. So,
Yeah, please.
you kind of implied that we can't limit any of the rights in the Constitution, right?
I didn't imply that. I said that you can't. No. Let's make sure we get this straight, okay? I didn't imply anything. I said that the right to freedom of speech cannot be abridged unless it's under certain circumstances, which are dangerous to others, present danger, fighting words, etc. None of this applies. So
Yeah.
make sure you got my words right. Go ahead.
That's the reason why I asked it the way I did, so you could clarify. Yeah.
I appreciate you.
There are a bunch of different rights in the Constitution that we limit based on the Constitution, correct?
Sure, but the thing that you need to understand, though, is that the freedom of speech is closely entwined in jurisprudence and in practicality with the right to vote. So all the other rights don't really matter in the analysis of the Supreme Court's jurisprudence on the right to vote being tied to freedom of speech. So unless my vote for Donald Trump incites violence, which is dubious at best, even though I didn't vote for Trump, you're not going to get to draw the comparison you're going to want to draw. It's kind of like, gotcha, keep going.
Yeah, well, so with the 15th Amendment, I mean, Gorb showed it to you earlier. What does it actually say that that voting cannot be limited based off of?
Okay.
Is any of that actually based off of literacy, competency, anything like that?
So it does not, but let me ask a question back to you then. So you're saying that the competency tests in Jim Crow South are totally constitutional, and you're piggybacking on that to promote your position? Because that's what you're saying.
Specifically,
like literally, it is.
No,
it was. So the Voting Rights Act limited what you're trying to do, and so you're saying, oh well, it's not in the Constitution, so we can go back to before the Voting Rights Act.
No, we wouldn't have to, because the Voting Rights Act specifically limits literacy tests, which are arbitrary. And I actually have an example of a literacy test if we want to pull it out.
I don't care to see it because it's irrelevant to the argument.
Yeah. So what we're arguing for isn't a literacy test, which would be illegal. Yes,
I didn't say it was a literacy test. I said that. Let's just fucking break this down real quick, okay? Sorry, I said that for my bad. So what you were saying is, since your buddy said that the 15th Amendment allows for tests that aren't literacy tests, and the Voting Rights Act allows for tests, then they can be constitutional per se, right? There is a lot of jurisprudence following that, right? That says that Citizens United, even though you might hate the case, it's still good law. And that means the constitutional interpretation is that voting is speech. Political contributions are speech. If you limit someone's right to vote, you limit the right to speech. So I'm not sure what kind of circuitous route you're going around the constitutional analysis here, because it doesn't really apply. The thing is today, in America, if you have the right to speak... Yes, it does.
Citizens United has... No, it doesn't. It's the...
Political...
United,
oh my God.
Hold on. Citizens United was about whether or not money is speech.
Yes, and part of that holding was the fact that the right to speech is so interlocked with the right to vote and political speech that one can donate money to a political campaign, and to do so would infringe upon the right to speech, which is the right to vote and to influence voters. That was the
okay. So then, theoretically speaking, right? A felon can't vote, but they can donate to political campaigns, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Donald Trump is a felon. He can donate to political campaigns. He can vote, right? Or he can't. Like, he can vote, right? So, like, I'm not sure what you're driving at.
I'm pointing out the fact that, with your Citizens United point, Citizens United has nothing to do with the right to vote. It has to do with the use of money as speech.
Okay, but the Citizens United holding held that the right to vote is sacrosanct. We shall not infringe upon it. The right to freedom of speech is paramount and also tethered closely to that right. Okay? So to put any infringement upon it without, again, we have to make a distinction because you're all getting away from this, without prior conduct. If you're a felon, yes. If you're not a citizen, yeah, you can't vote. Your conduct that's been adjudicated by a court of law, let me finish, it's been adjudicated by a court of law, has deprived you of your right to vote. Without that, there shall be no bar on the right to vote. The government cannot put a bar on the right to vote upon you. And you're trying to do that.
Yeah, so you're saying that
wait,
money is speech, right?
Let's just get that out first. You are trying to put a bar on the right of an American citizen to vote in an election without them doing anything bad. No prior conduct. Everybody has a bar on the right to vote, right? That's what you're trying to do. Just make it clear.
A very
I don't care how little it is.
right?
I don't care how reasonable it is. Reasonable doesn't matter. You're putting a bar on it, right?
Yes, just like we do with a lot of other rights.
I will grant you, no, but that's different. I'll grant you it's a reasonable. It's reasonable. What?
It's literally not. It's not any different. So like,
what do you mean?
So take the Second Amendment, right? Because the Second Amendment
shouldn't be infringed. If you're a felon by prior conduct, if you have committed a crime by your prior conduct, you can't have a gun.
It doesn't say anything about fucking committing crimes, right? So based off of your shit,
that's fucking jurisprudence. That's a jurisprudence. If you are a felon, you can't have by your prior conduct.
That's because
you have
and the reason why we're allowed to do things like require background checks in order to buy a firearm or limit felons' right to vote is
to make sure you have not committed prior bad conduct. It's not fucking hard.
Yes, but the reason why we're allowed to do that is because we can limit the rights in the Constitution as long as we don't completely eliminate them and violate them.
But the whole point is the only reason you can violate those rights you were just mentioning is by the individual, the human being in front of you's prior misconduct that has been adjudicated by a judiciary. You are trying to put it upon everybody. So okay, if I have the rights.
Okay,
I do have the rights. No, I have the rights. I do bad things. I get less rights. Okay?
Okay,
are there any other rights until you do extra Y?
Are there any other rights? Are there any other rights in the bill that broadly are limited based off of acts of Congress? Are there any? No, hold on.
Are there any other rights contingent upon you doing something? Are there any rights in the Bill of Rights that are contingent upon you taking affirmative action to do something? No, they're natural, God-given rights. Unless you fuck it up, you get them. Are there any other rights in the Bill of Rights that require you to do something else? Sorry, go ahead.
Are there any other rights in the Bill of Rights that are broadly limited across society based off of rules that have been passed by Congress? Can you think of any other ones?
Stupid question. The point is not
whether
or not they can be limited. No. You're screwing up. You're screwing up. All the rights are there. If you fuck up and mess up, and then you are and you have done something.
You're acting like we require you to fuck up in order to limit these rights when we don't. The Fourth Amendment is violated every day. No, you don't. The Fourth Amendment's violated every day by the fucking Patriot Act. That doesn't require you to fuck up.
That's fucking irrelevant to this conversation.
Cameras violate. No, it's not.
The government
because you're sitting blocking and saying that we require you to fuck up in order to limit these rights when we don't. We have things like the Patriot Act. We have flock cameras. We limit rights every fucking day due to the Constitution.
Keep fucking digging. So you're saying that your idea is the same as the Patriot Act for fucking rights to vote. That because we did the Patriot Act, and I agree with you, you and I are on the same page with this, it's so fucked up, it's so unconstitutional, that should not be law, right? We can violate people's rights every day in the Patriot Act, so now we can violate them in this new and interesting way. Like, because that's allowable doesn't mean it's good or should be allowed. Like, because the Patriot Act passed doesn't mean your fucking bullshit proposition should be passed. The fundamental point here is, and you lost the debate on that one alone, so thank you, Vijay, I appreciate that. The point is that all the other fundamental rights, right to bear arms, freedom of speech, have to have circumstances that require the individual agent, the human in front of you, to take an action that therefore abrogates those rights. You are making a prerequisite to a right. Prerequisites to natural rights do not exist in America. They never have. That's the basis of our Constitution. There are natural, God-given rights.
The background
that
checks
you
don't
have
exist.
by basic. Say what?
So
Well,
passing a background test to get a firearm doesn't exist.
To prove you
That's a
haven't committed a
prerequisite.
prior problem.
That's still a prerequisite.
It's not.
It
You
literally
can-
is. You have to do
no,
it before you can obtain a
To
firearm.
buy, okay, my God. To buy a gun, yeah. If your grandpa gives you a gun, no background check. If your fucking brother hands you a gun, you possess it, it's not a fucking background check. To buy a gun from a commercial sale because of the Interstate Commerce Act, yeah, the government has infringed that too. But no, to possess a firearm, you don't have to do that. Like, you have to fucking get your shit straight, man.
There actually are plenty of states where you are.
I don't care about states. This is federal law. What the fuck? But we're talking about federal law. You're federally mandating a test that preempts people's rights until they pass it. Fucking tyrant. Jesus Christ.
Whether or not there are still states that you have to pass a background check in the private sale.
And federal law can preempt. What does that have to do with anything? If your grandpa gives you a gun, you still get it. You still have the right to possess and carry whether or not you bought the gun. To buy a gun is different than the right to bear arms. Read Heller. Read some fucking court cases. Christ.
All right, gentlemen. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on in there. I let this cook a little bit past its due date, but I don't think
Love
we
you,
got
Benji.
that stuff.
Benji, I would give you a hug.
Great interaction there, y'all. Appreciate that. Very passionate. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next pairing, which is boom, AVG and Razor Sharp G. So same deal. 10 minutes is on the clock. Y'all are welcome to pick this up where they left it off. Take it a completely different direction. Do as you please. Try not to talk over each other as much as possible, especially given the fact that AVG has to mute and unmute like she does. So be as respectful as possible for that. If you would, please, Razor, and go ahead and jump on it.
Oh, of course. Of course. I prefer to be as respectful as possible to everyone I speak to. How you doing, AVG?
Good, yourself?
Very tired.
That's no excuse. Come on, give me your best. What do you got?
I was hoping you would continue from where Vijay was left off. Like he had something there.
Well, it sounds like Ludo's saying that rights are absolute. Like, do we not have, legal cases that say, hey, the government can impede upon your rights if it's for the greater good, the security and safety of the many? Is that not a thing anymore, or?
Well, obviously, there's going to be exceptions to certain rules because you want to be. The whole thing about rights is it should always be the whole. I have the right to swing my fist out wherever I wish, so long as it doesn't bop you in the nose. So, like as he's been stating, there's without prior incidences, you have those rights.
Yeah, so I don't think that's what he was saying. So I don't understand this whole.
What he's been saying.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the prompt is simply that people should be forced to take a comprehension test to be allowed to vote. It says nothing on whether or not they can pass it. And I mean, even if it did, technically, with the technological advancements, most of the actual, if you will, kind of like pylons that have been previously an impediment to individuals in certain communities to have these, resources and the ability to access knowledge are now just gone, right? Like, if anything, it's easier to access this knowledge more than ever.
You're assuming that there would be a coverage of this knowledge that would go into place if we were to put these tests into place.
It already is there.
How so?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you not go on the internet and just search up basic civics tests or look up, specific, let's say you need to learn about branches of government. There's apps that can teach you how to do that are free. There's online courses, online materials that can show you this. And I mean, if you absolutely want to take this easiest way out, you can use the clankers, right? Before they overpower us as our robot overlords, you can still, enslave them for a couple cheap tasks right here and there.
How often do you see misinformation online?
So there's this little thing that you can do. So if you are curious as to, for instance, like in the Google AI summary is a common thing that, like a low tier debaters, which messes up consistently. You can actually go and click on the sources, right? And look through the study, and then you could realize, okay,
Sure.
is this actually telling me what I think it's saying in the
often
summary?
I apologize. How much do you think the average person gives a shit to click on those?
So what does that really have to do with anything? Like, is the question that you asked me is whether or not
We're
the
talking
information
about the
is.
majority of people in order to get this knowledge.
So you
Yes, I
asked
agree with
me.
you. You can use the magical
Let me know I can talk.
you can use magical hand box to type in a thing like what is the branch of government? It says that, but because of possible fuckery with Google's AI, possibly even mess with the companies wanting to purposefully spread misinformation, because that's never happened before. They could easily spread misinformation of like whatever's the first thing people see, and people will take that. It's shown that people will always take the first thing they see. It's why so many companies pay top dollar to make sure that their business is the top result whenever someone searches a very specific word or phrase.
So you're shifting the goalpost. The question was whether or not the information is available, and you
really?
still haven't countered me on the fact that the prompt just says that they have to take a test, not necessarily that they have to be able to pass
Why
it.
should they be forced? Why should they be forced?
Why should the government force anybody to do anything? I don't know, for the greater good,
Exactly.
perhaps?
No. We should be incentivized, not forced.
Should individuals just be able to drive when they turn 18?
Once they take a test that shows that they are safe on the road.
And why is that?
Because that is you're incentivized to do that or risk hurting other people.
Right, because your decisions, if you have
incentivized.
If you exercise that, yeah, you are forced to take a test in order to be able to drive. And if you don't,
you're incentivized to take the test.
Incentivized with what?
The forced part, the quote unquote forced part about it is that it's saying, okay, you're incentivized to do this so that you can drive around. But if you don't do it, you end up risking hurting people, which is then more of a more coercive incentivization to get you to get that license so that you can drive. Yes.
No, if you drive without a license, you get subject to the penal system and potential, like it can remove your ability to drive at all.
Because it's a privilege, not a right.
You don't understand you seem to be fixated on the difference.
You don't understand it either.
Okay. So when something is a right, you tell me what exactly separates a privilege from a right in your view, because I think you kind of got a different definition than I do.
I would say a privilege is something that is granted to you via via the state or government that you don't need or is not a requirement. A right would be something that is protected by the state that cannot be taken away outside of certain circumstances, like what Doodle had been mentioning earlier with extenuating circumstances, like being a felon or such like that.
Okay, so let's take a look at other rights that are similar, I guess, to those. So like, let's say the right for the life, liberty, and security of the person, right? Can that be taken away by the government?
Can you repeat that question? I apologize.
Yeah, can that right be taken away by the government?
The right to life, liberty, and happiness.
Security of the person, yeah. In Canada, maybe it's different.
Okay, I just want to be sure I had the right wording. If you commit a crime that took away the right, liberty, and happiness of another person, as I said, the whole thing of a right is you have it until you affect someone else's. You can swing your fist around all you want until you bop someone in the nose.
Yeah. So, and why would we remove that right?
Why would we remove their right to swing the fist?
Yeah.
Because they popped some. Because they showed that because they end up showing that they were irresponsible with their swinging, and they bopped someone in the nose.
And if we could
So they have
determine,
to be federally strict on it.
yeah, and if we could predetermine that they would be more likely to commit an injury, like let's say like the individual has a mental disorder such as schizophrenia or a bipolar disorder where they might be a danger to other people, can we just, before they've even done anything, can we take away that ability?
No.
Yes, we can. We could put people into,
because they didn't do anything. The most that ends up happening, is that you are giving them you do keep a closer eye on them because they are not within their control of their own thought and body because of said mental illness that they may or may not have.
that's not true. You can actually put people into an involuntary like holding and put them into a psychiatric institution with them.
Because at that point, they were a danger to not only other people, but to not only themselves, but other people.
But they don't need to do something.
To themselves, yes. Like for me, I almost got involuntarily. I almost got 5150 because I had suicidal thoughts. My roommates were going to 5150 me, but because I was able to correct myself and show that I am still able to not hurt myself, I don't need to do this. Someone who does do 5150 shows that they are incapable of making sure that they don't hurt themselves.
But you don't. But to my knowledge, you don't need like for instance, like if you are found to have like a certain psychiatric illness, you can lose the right to bear arms, right? You can lose a whole bunch of things, and you can actually be put into an involuntary hold without having actually tried to off yourself.
As Little said, if there's extenuating circumstances, these things can happen. It shows that you are a possible danger to the people around you. Voting doesn't really do that. Why the fuck should I have someone be forced to take a test so that they can say, hey, I have a right to say I don't like this politician, I want this guy in instead? Why should I force them to take a test for that?
Because a crazy fourth wave feminist could make a decision to vote in some kind of candidate that's going to, put all men into selective service or like force men to like donate their sperm to sperm banks.
In selective service, I immediately got signed up for them when I turned 18. What the fuck?
Okay, so I'm
done by men, and that was done by other men.
I'm giving you an example. Sorry, a man can't be a fourth wave feminist?
I don't understand what this fourth wave feminist thing is. I'm just a feminist. I don't know what the fuck this wave shit is.
It's an extreme form of feminism.
Yeah, cool. Cool. I'm not eternally online.
Okay, at home. So are you gonna answer my question or not?
I'm not an add-on, but okay. I was just pointing out that I'm a feminist, not super duper radical imaginary one you're thinking.
So you didn't answer my question though. I'm still waiting on an answer.
I did.
No, you didn't. I asked, can you actually hurt individuals if certain people have the right to vote? Like if a group of crazy people get together and vote in a candidate that's going to, like I said, vote for Miss Sanders' policies or something like that, or some kind of new world order that's going to affect people in a negative way, how is that any different from the individual that we're putting into a psychiatric hold and removing certain rights?
Because at least with the said imaginary group you're thinking of, there can be a actual group out there who says, actually, no, because I also have a right to vote, I'm going to vote for the other guy who will then give us our free healthcare and make sure that everyone is egalitarian.
So that's a hope. That's a hope that there's going to be people like that. You can't guarantee that.
Yours is a fearmonger.
A hope and a fear. All right, so we're going to go ahead and roll into our third debate. Thank you both again. Our last championship round. This time it's going to be between Gorps and Tokahanas. 10 minutes is on the clock. I'll start it up when y'all start. Just go ahead and get on into it.
All right. I'm going to kind of continue on with what AVG was saying there, in that the entirety, prior to the brief part of the conversation they just had, the entirety of this debate, your side has not acknowledged the fact that voting can cause harm. This is not a victimless action, right? There are 2 dead American citizens, countless other dead non-citizens, because of voting, because we voted Trump into office, right? So there are physical harm consequences of voting, but do you acknowledge that? You're muted. You're muted, I think. I can't hear you.
She's muted, yeah.
My apologies. You know, I'm gonna go a totally different route out of what I was just saying. So no, I don't believe that voting is what was the issue with Trump. I believe people were misled, which leads to another issue, which is just because you're comprehensive on what a politician's views are doesn't mean that that's what their actual views are, right? Like we're not necessarily getting representation with our votes. So which leads me to
the
like
test
why
I'm
should
proposing wouldn't test whether or not you know the candidate. It would test whether or not you know the governmental system.
Right.
Which doesn't mean that every voter knows everything that they should, but it is a good baseline to make sure that people have a basic understanding of what our government is and does. And then from there, yes, it is up to the people to make sure that they're educated themselves, but this is a base level of understanding that everybody should have anyways.
Which leads me to why should the citizen be required to prove their competence before choosing a politician who's not required to prove theirs?
I'd be fine with politicians also having to prove it.
So would I, but
I mean, realistically, politicians are going to be people that have voted before. They've probably already passed the test.
But my argument is like, why would we implement that before implementing something for the people who are actually running the country to pass a comprehensive?
Do both at the same time, easy.
Okay, so now that's changing the prompt, though, right? The prompt is people should be forced to take a comprehensive test.
Yeah, you're the one that brought up the politicians. You're the one that changed the prompt, but either way, it doesn't matter because you can do both at the same time.
No, my question is why would we implement that before implementing a comprehensive test for the people who actually run the country? I'm not changing the prompt, I'm questioning the prompt.
Well, it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, the politicians are people that care about politics and people that vote. To be able to vote, you need to pass the test. Great, they've already passed the test. In any realistic circumstance here, it doesn't.
That's not necessarily true, as we discussed with literacy rates. That excludes a decent amount of people who are underfunded in the Black communities, essentially.
You can be illiterate and still pass these comprehension tests. There are people that pass the test to be immigrants that barely speak English, right? Like this test gets passed.
But they're still literate, right? The test gets translated. The test gets translated into their language. It's not an only English test.
It's taken in English.
It's definitely translated. From what I know, it's definitely translated at least.
Great. I mean, anyways, let's get back to the prompt. You never addressed. Do you agree that voting can cause harm, physical, real harm to people?
I do not believe that it causes direct harm to people. Based on the morality that I've seen in voters, I don't think they vote for that. And if that is the case, where people do get harmed because of a vote, then that wasn't represented in that campaign that was voted for, if you understand what I'm saying.
Well, if we take the current admin, right? If we take the Trump administration, it was what he's doing with ICE, for example, is directly represented.
No one could have guessed that he was going to do this, in my opinion.
Everybody could have guessed. All it took was taking a second to think about it.
Well,
but everything
what
that
they
he's
were
done
portraying
was directly portrayed in his campaign.
What they were portraying at the time was that they were going to build a wall and that they were going to put ICE agents at the wall that they were building, not scattered throughout the country, which I've reiterated over.
He just didn't look well enough at his campaign. But
I gave him the benefit of the doubt.
And either way, even if he was not campaigning on it, right, the act of voting for him caused harm.
But that's what I'm saying. I was comprehensive in the fact that they were building a wall, that they were putting ICE agents in the country, but I just didn't comprehend the fact that they were going to do this part with the hunting people down and shit throughout the country.
That's like I did not. Either way, it is.
But my point is, this is an example of people are being represented one outlook and then getting a different outcome.
Either way, it was the vote that directly led to the situation in which now we have dead Americans and dead immigrants, right? It is the people voting Trump and all of his other friends into office.
Is the misrepresentation of that campaign.
That's great. Implementing the test allows for a certain base level of knowledge to make it less likely that somebody can be misled into voting for somebody that they do not actually support what that person is going to do, right? It allows people to have a base level of knowledge and
do something completely different.
Yeah, no, but people have a base level of knowledge, and then from there, yes, they need to educate themselves more, I would say, but this is a base level of knowledge so that people at least somewhat understand the system that they are voting this person into, either being a representative in or a president in or whatever. It gives a base level of knowledge so that it's less likely that people are misled.
I mean, if the affirmative believes political comprehension is necessary to exercise political power, then the standards should apply even more strongly to the people seeking political power.
It's civic comprehension. We're not asking whether you know what the Republican Party is campaigning on. We're asking whether you know what Congress is, whether you know the branches of government.
You think that's
so
what
that you
the
know
comprehensive
what
test
you are
would look
electing
like for a politician?
The politicians would inevitably end up taking this test as well. A majority of Americans would end up taking this test. Everybody effectively would be taking it and passing it.
And passing it is naive, I think. Again, you're not considering the low-income neighborhoods who are struggling to survive and focusing on surviving, and who don't have the time to sit down and take a test and get the right to vote, earn the right to vote with the comprehension test.
10
Do you understand what people do in the streets to survive? They do not have time, no, for a 10-question test,
most
and
of them
then
can take the test while they're
go out of their way to be lied to their face and misrepresented.
Most of them can take the test in the time it takes to take a shit. And if we make it online, they can take a shit and take the test as they're doing it. All right, it's very uninvasive.
You know very well that they're not going to be a 10-question test.
The voter base. It makes
it's
people
definitely not going to be a 10-question test. They're going to overcomplicate things as time goes on, especially as they do with every fucking thing. The government overcomplicates everything. They're going to do that with this test, and they're going to eventually it's going to fall into the wrong hands, and that person is going to
in decades, and we
choose who gets to pass that test.
The citizenship test has been established and has not changed in decades.
Who gets to choose who passes that, dude? That's going to eventually fall into the wrong hands where someone's going to be like, oh, well, this group doesn't get to pass this time. Sorry. Maybe next time.
It's simply if you answer, I believe it's 70% of the questions correctly, you're good. All right, it's not
who's to say that the person in power isn't just going to be like, oh, well, these group of people scored this score. Who's
to say
like,
tomorrow
who's vetting all of that?
Who's to say tomorrow every voter roll gets purged? Whatever. We can play.
Oh, the Scantron didn't work. The Scantron malfunctioned, guys.
What we're advocating for, right, is not that. You're just doing a slippery slope.
Dude, you're just not seeing the amounts of ways that the right to vote could be taken away from you using this method.
No, because what we have described is a very clear way that it is laid out that does not.
So what happens to the people who don't pass? What happens to the people who don't pass? What happens to the people who don't? So when the election passes, though, they're not allowed to vote in that election, correct?
Well, you can take it a million times before the election until they pass, and just statistically here, they're going to pass at some point.
And what if they don't?
Then they don't vote.
So that you just get to take people's right to vote away, right? With one switch of a score, with one
which we take away people's rights to vote
away people's right to vote.
We take away people's privilege to vote all the time. In fact, there's
and you want to expand
that.
What you're arguing is expanding that.
What I'm arguing is that the voter base should know how the government functions. They can choose to learn that, or they can choose to not vote.
You're just adding another way for the government to take away our vote. You're saying there's all these ways for them to take away our vote. Why are you going to give them another one?
What I'm saying is that it's not unprecedented to do this, right? It's not like we've never done this for any situation, right? It's not unprecedented to limit privileges that the government provides.
So just because it's unprecedented means we should do it for the rest of time?
I'm saying it's not.
Or not unprecedented? I'm sorry, I misspoke. Just because it's not unprecedented means we should do it for the rest of time?
No, I'm saying that it's a thing that we actively have, and the majority of the population accepts these limits on rights or privileges.
Yeah, people also accepted slavery at the time.
Yeah, but it's a thing that happens that the majority of society.
Yeah, it was just a thing that happens. You know, we just
accept our
take people from Africa and enslave them. It's just a thing that happens.
You also accept your rights being limited in certain scenarios, right? It's just a specific one with a very clear use case, being that the voting populace should know what they are voting on, like what their representative, where they end up going, right? What their responsibilities may be, what branch of government they're going to be in, things like this that are very basic knowledge,
And how
things
does
that you can
that
find out.
affect
You can
them? How
find
does
out.
that affect the daily voter's choice? How would that benefit the average voter in order to be able to make the voting system better in some way? How does this benefit us? I don't see
It benefits the average voter by people having a better idea of what they are voting for, and thus our policymakers and policies better reflecting the actual will of the people, rather than reflecting the will of people that were lied to by a TV ad.
How does this motivate people to actually learn more about what they're voting for?
The base level of understanding, like to vote, you would have to know.
If it's just a base level understanding, then how does it affect people who? How does you know what I'm saying? How do people? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Nope, it's okay. It's perfect because the time was up anyway. I was letting y'all finish.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
No worries. So great job, everybody. We're now going to go through our closing arguments. Once again, chatters, if there was any questions that you guys think I left on the table or anything you want clarification on, let us know in the chat. But until then, we're not going to get to that until the closings are finished. And we're going to go through in the same order we started. So that means Vigi, you are up first for your closing arguments. I'm putting 3 minutes on the clock, uninterrupted time. Use as much as you need. I'll start it up when you start to talk.
Look, the fact is there are plenty of rights that we limit in plenty of different ways for plenty of different reasons. There is no exception or any bullshit like that says that we shouldn't limit the right to vote or couldn't limit the right to vote. This is being framed like by the neg, like this is a return to Jim Crow era politics. But the fact is we have a lot better access to education nowadays. People can do research on their own. This is not some racist policy like they're wanting to try to say. The fact is, the way that they're trying to frame it is very much so giving the Joe Biden poor kids are just as bright and talented as white kids fucking argument. Look, and there are plenty of harms that come from voting. And this is the reason why we need to restrict the right to vote to people that don't understand what they're voting for. The current administration is a great example of this, like Forbes was pointing out. You have the ICE shit, where not only have multiple people died, we're throwing fucking immigrants into concentration camps right now. You have the drug war that was started under Richard Nixon that has caused millions and millions of deaths and millions of people to be fucking imprisoned. You have the Reagan era administration getting rid of the public mental health institutions, which has caused the fucking homelessness crisis that the right wants to bitch about when they're literally the ones that caused it. And this isn't exclusive to the right. The left has done shit that they shouldn't have done too. The fucking internment camps on the Japanese. This is something that repeatedly happens over and over, that we vote in bad presidents because of the fact that people are not educated enough to actually know what they're voting for. And the way to prevent that is put a system in place to encourage people to make sure that they are actually educated, like we do with guns and like we do with driving. Like, there are prerequisites for doing other things that can harm people. There has to be prerequisites to this as well, because there is a massive more amount of harm that can come from voting. Don't forget, Adolf Hitler was fucking elected, guys. Like, we can get, like, if the neg wants to run with the slippery slope argument, not allowing people, allowing everybody to vote and not limiting it based on education is the type of shit that gets people like Adolf Hitler elected.
All right, and Godwin's Law, everybody. All right, so It is now going to go to you, Tokahanis. 3 minutes is on the clock for your closings. This is uninterrupted time. Go ahead and bring it home for us.
Okay, one moment. Hold on. Sorry, just took a hit.
Cheers.
Okay. The affirmative side is correct about one thing. Informed voters are important, but the conclusion does not follow. The answer is to uninformed citizens is not to give the government the power to decide who is politically intelligent enough to participate in democracy. Because the moment we allow the government to determine who's sufficiently informed to vote, we've created a system where political power determines who is allowed to exercise political power. And that is precisely the danger. The people who run the government should not get to decide which citizens are qualified to choose them. The people who vote for politicians should not have to pass a test that politicians themselves are not required to pass before taking control of the country. And citizens should not lose their political voice because a government-approved test has determined that they are not sufficiently educated, informed, or politically knowledgeable. Democracy does not require every citizen to be an expert. It requires that citizens have the right to participate in determining who governs them. The solution is to uninformed electorate, is a better informed electorate, not a disenfranchised one. For those reasons, the negative firmly rejects the resolution, and also stupid people still need to vote.
All right. And now we're going to go to you, AVG. 3 minutes is on the clock for your closings, ma'am. Go ahead and start it up when you're ready.
All right. Well, we heard a lot from we heard a lot from our opponents today, although they seem to avoid the question, would uneducated or incompetent voters cause harm like the plague? Which I find very appropriate considering that the fact that it completely ruins their argument. Other questions they didn't want to answer include the fact that the prompt simply says that people should be forced to take a test, not that they actually be allowed to. And in defense of their indefensible position, in my view, all they have is, well, people deserve it, but my rights, notwithstanding the fact that we take people's rights away all the time, something that they also were unable to contend with. This entire debate has told me one thing, that we actually need more restrictions on voting, that even if we were to not mandate a specific passing requirement on such a test for comprehension to be able to vote, that it would deter idiots, because as some of my opponents have pointed out throughout this debate, even the modern advancements that are available still make it too hard for people to access knowledge. And with that, I yield.
Right. And now we are going to go to there we go. I hear myself like 52 times. All right, now we're going to go over to you, Little. 3 minutes is on the clock for your closing argument, sir. Go ahead and start it up whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all for being here. Appreciate AVG. Appreciate Vigi. Appreciate. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. It's the first time I've hit you, but appreciate my the close on the other side. So the basic thing here, so my friends on my side have pointed out the pragmatic problems, right? Like, how would you implement this? How effed up would it be if you implement it, right? They've nailed that thing to the wall, and like Jell-O, except they've got the Jell-O to stick this time. Let's go back to the fundamental principle here, right? Is, should American citizens be forced to take a test, the nature of which is indeterminate, maybe 10, maybe whatever, it doesn't matter, before they can vote, before they can exercise their fundamental right to freedom of speech, which is linked to voting, okay? So we have several things we have to look at here. The first one I want to point out here is that in every other instance, a mental health adjudicated person, a felon, a person who has been, I guess, mentally adjudicated, they've undergone the due process of law. So when they're like, well, they can mess with your Fourth Amendment, no, the Fourth Amendment rights apply. The only way the government can deprive you of rights is through the Fourth Amendment, the due process, okay? If the government comes and takes you away, guess what? The people in mental health institutions can still vote. The whole way that their right to liberty and life is alleviated or is abridged is by due process. So I don't want you to let them conflate the idea of a right, a fundamental right to vote, with the ways that they're going around the other rights in the Constitution. No. And also, I don't want you to let them conflate the idea of a privilege, driver's license. The right to bear arms is a right unless you have been adjudicated to be a mental defective, to be somebody who's a danger to others, to have committed a felony. Guess how that happens? Due process. The whole problem with their entire case, I want everybody in the audience to listen to this, is it's not like there's a right you have. If you F up and you're adjudicated through due process, then it can be taken away. No. They want to put a bar on the front door. They want to say, in order to access this fundamental right, you have to do something. Who writes it, it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, in my opinion, unlike my colleagues, which their points are valid and good and should win the round, my point is that the very freaking premise that we would put a lock on the front door to access a fundamental right is un-American, unconstitutional, and is a deep, deep problem. Because as soon as you open that door, all the problems my friends here on my side are bringing out come through the door like a pack of rabid weasels. So the whole problem here and the whole point is that we can't even let it get that far. The point is that ultimately, the right to vote is linked to the right to freedom of speech. You can't put a bar on it, and it's linked to all the other rights in the Constitution they keep bringing up. Except for the fact is that in order to lose those, you have to have a precursive action properly adjudicated by an administrative body, and then you lose that right. It's not a privilege, it's a right. If you notice, all my opponents say, all their speeches say, oh, the privilege to vote. They keep sneaking that in like a pack of weasels. That's not the point. It's not a privilege to vote, it's a right to vote. It's a privilege to drive a car. The government can regulate that. It's a right to vote. The government cannot regulate the right to vote. Sorry, that was it.
No, you're good. All right. So, Gorks, you are up next. Go ahead. 3 minutes is on the clock for your closing arguments, sir.
As the captain of my apparent team of weasels, for the end of this debate, the question is very simple. Do we want a democracy driven by informed judgment or one vulnerable to confusion, manipulation, and misinformation? I've argued that a basic voter comprehension test is not a restriction, it's a reinforcement. It strengthens the very foundation of the democratic process. We cannot pretend like the current status quo is working. Research from countless political science journals shows that a large portion of the electorate cannot identify major institutions, misunderstand ballot measures, or fall prey to misinformation campaigns. When voters don't understand what they're voting on, elections stop reflecting the will of the people and start reflecting the will of whoever has enough money to throw at a misinformation campaign. The policy of a voting comprehension test would protect voters rather than politicians. Right now, political actors, whether they be foreign or domestic, can exploit confusion and ultimate retardation of the population. Having a political comprehension test would ensure that every voter has a base level of information and is less likely to fall victim to every force trying to convince Americans to vote a certain way. This is also not a return to discriminatory literacy tests. Those were designed to exclude people. What I'm proposing is designed to empower people. The standard would be transparent, uniform, publicly available, and paired with free education for every citizen. The goal is not to keep people out of the voting booth. It is to prepare them to enter it confidently with the knowledge needed to make informed choices. I'd also like to point out that democracy is the right to engage in our democracy comes with a responsibility. Every right that we have, including the right to engage with our democracy, is granted by the government. The idea of God-given rights is a fundamental misunderstanding of the way in which rights are granted to every single American citizen. It is normal to have the government put restrictions on these. We've seen it with guns. We've seen it with speech. You can't yell fire in a crowded room or in a crowded theater. We see it with having to get licenses to practice medicine or law or any of these other things. Incompetence in these areas harms people. Voting is no different. When millions cast ballots without understanding the consequences, the entire nation bears the cost. Or, for example, 1 million dead Iraqis bear the cost. So I close with this. A comprehension test does not undermine democracy. It protects it, ensures that every vote is intentional, informed, and grounded in real understanding. If we want elections that truly represent the will of the people, we must ensure that the people understand what they're voting for. A stronger democracy requires informed voters, and a comprehension test is the path to get us there.
Right. And last but not least, Razor. Final closing arguments. 3 minutes on the clock. I'll start up when you start to talk.
No, I feel that the NAIG has covered really well why having this type of comprehension test is not only stupid but irrelevant and not at all needed, and is also just I already had stupid. Uh, the thing I keep hearing said by the other side is that this comprehension test would make sure that people know what they're voting for because it's this idea of a citizen test, an understanding like, oh, it's the branches do XYZ thing. None of this stops politicians and newscasters and independent media sources from spreading lies, misinformation, and fear mongering to make people vote the way that they wish them to vote through their fear. They could pass that comprehension test and still vote the wrong way. They could pass this idea of a comprehension test and still hurt people with their votes. The Iraq War could have still happened if this comprehension test was going on because people voted for the man, not the test. People voted for the lies that they were told would happen and they got duped. People voted for Orange Man because he lied to them and they believed him. There is no reason that this test would save us from people like Orange Man. There is no reason a test like this would actually make sure we have a more educated populace in what they're voting. The thing that would be creating a more educated populace is if we were to fund schools to make sure that they have good media literacy and great understanding of the world around them and be able to catch who is a liar and a con man before they go to a poll. A comprehension test does not do this. And the fact that the affirmative refused to acknowledge that the entire time is proof that this was a losing argument for them from the start. To quote JJK, Satoru Gojo, I came into this with one arm tied behind my back, hopping on a broken foot, and I still said, nah, I'd win. And I feel we have done that tonight.
Perfect. There we go. So that completes the debates. We are now going to go into our Q&A session. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. I'm going to put, we'll say, 15 minutes on the clock. This is how long you guys out there in the chat have to vote. I will also send it directly to you, AVG, so you can put it over there in your chat. Give me one split second. Let me get that pulled up. Boom. There's the link. Control copy. So I'm going to put it in or send it to you first, ma'am.
Thank you.
There you go. And then here we go for the shared chat. Tocahontas, you and Razor's chat should be able to see that there. And last but not least,
say real quick?
You can say real slow too.
I think that we need to implement a test on the chatters before they vote.
Okay, so
well,
I'm gonna have
the test.
Here's the test.
I'm gonna have the chatters vote.
LOL.
If they will implement that law. How about that?
If they can open the link, they can vote. There you go. There's your
Yeah, see, other thing, even if they comprehend the test, they can just vote for who they prefer, even if they,
That's exactly
Which they will.
And on that point, I would like to say to you guys out there in chat, and everybody who's voting, please do me a favor. Vote for who you think made the most compelling argument. Which team do you think had the best rhetoric, was the most persuasive, understood and presented their arguments the best, and actually engaged with their opponent's ideas in good faith? So not necessarily who you agree with coming into this or who you like the most. Be honest. Which team made the best arguments tonight? Now, we already have a few questions.
Yeah. Can you do me a favor real quick? Since I'm not live streaming, so I don't have a chat. Can you can you drop a link into
Load it
the
up,
Discord
chat.
so I can send to people who were watching?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they're watching it, it should have been in the chat of wherever they're watching it. But yeah.
But they're on phones and stuff. So like,
I got you.
I need somebody to share.
No worries.
Hey,
No worries. I don't mind.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And if anybody else needs that, let me know. Okay, so like I said, we do have a few questions. Some of them are for everybody. Some of them are for specific people. I have a couple questions of my own. But we're going to go ahead and put 15 minutes on the clock. Y'all start voting. But yeah, really I expect to push there at the end. So first question from the chat. And this is actually from Razor's chat. So I'm going to read this out loud and try to process what the question means, and then we'll figure out who this question is going to. Should such a state have the right to also decide who is fit for prison or to be locked in mental institutions? So I'm going to assume that this means that the government that is implementing the test that bars some people from voting, should that government also have the right to arbitrarily decide if you are going to prison or if you are going to be locked up in a mental institution? I'm assuming this is for the app.
If you test bad enough, you'll go to a...
Nope. I think this is completely unrelated. This is about governmental powers. So that is how I'm going to phrase this question to you first, Corpse. Like I said, this seems to be for the AF. Corpse, do you believe that the government should have the ability to lock people in mental institutions?
Absent a crime, no.
Okay,
aside from possibly like a 72-hour hold for somebody's safety, but like an actual just locking somebody in for an extended period of time without a crime, no.
All right, cheers. AVG, do you believe that the government should be allowed to put people away for mental institutions?
If it can be demonstrated,
what circumstances? Yeah.
If it can be demonstrated through the use of expert evidence and reliable expert evidence at that they are going to pose an immediate harm to themselves or others, yes.
Okay. All right. And Vigi, same question. Do you believe that the government should be allowed to choose who goes into mental institutions, or what criteria is required in your opinion?
I don't think that's a government thing. I think that's a psychologist thing, and but we should have government-funded mental institutions that so that psychologists can deem whether or not people are fit for society. There are plenty of different types of mental disorders that are dangerous for these people to be part of society, and that's why the true crime genre is flourishing.
Cheers. All right, now you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give the negative also the opportunity to answer this. I know that each of you guys is against being a comprehension test for the voting. Do you, Razor? Wrong one. Do you, Razor, first? Do you believe that the government should be allowed to put people into mental institutions? And if so, what criteria is required?
It is going to depend on the danger that the person poses to themselves and others. As I stated, we already have 5150s, where if someone has shown that they are a complete danger to themselves and those around them, they are to be put into a mental institution for a hold of about 2 weeks at the most, to be sure that they are not, in fact, going to do that harm. So the government already does do that. We're usually giving a good amount of coverage from the doctors. Sure, you end up with medical debt because fuck our American healthcare system, but they make sure that you are okay before they let you go.
And Loodle, do you believe that the government should be allowed to choose who does and does not go to mental institutions? And if so, what do you think that process should look like?
Well, I actually do believe that it should be a process that's available. And I also believe that only can happen after a fundamental due process, right? Like you've done something, there's an adjudication through a proper judiciary process, right? And only that can allow you to relinquish your right of freedom and liberty to go to the process. So again, I think the fact that so much of the AF conceded this point kind of admits the fact that we were right in the whole point is in the whole debate is that the idea that you can't take a mental health test. If you fail it, you go away. No, there should be something you've done that's caused the judiciary to take notice of you or the mental health system, be it public asylums, private asylums, mental health 5105s, Section 8s in the military, whatever you want to say. And only after that process, the due process is taking course, are you deprived of that right. Prior to that, there's no test, you don't have to take a test to get into your rights. There's a due process to get you out of them. Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
I'd like to respond.
And we'll get to that later. Tocahontas, last to you. Do you think that the government should be allowed to put people in mental institutions? And if so, what do you think that process should look like?
I think in a capitalist society, it's ugly because the psychologist is going to make the most money by putting that person into a psych ward, essentially. So basically, we have a bunch of business owners, capitalists, making money off of the mental health of individuals. So I do think it's imperative that they have a judicial system behind that to make sure that everything is in order in regards to like legally speaking, and even that gets conflated because of lobbyists. So I think that is also an issue with that and needs to be looked at, and it isn't perfect the way it is now, but I do appreciate that you can't hold someone against their will for more than 2 weeks without seeing a judge, without judicial process.
All right, cool stuff. Now, Vigi, I will give you the, because the next question is for me, and it actually it is to you. So go ahead and respond as you wanted to, and then I'm going to hit you with the question.
Yeah. So the whole reason why, at least for me, I'm only speaking for me in this, right? The whole reason why we need to separate this topic from like this has nothing to do with the topic, right?
Yes. It was just a question that came from the chatter.
Oh, Ludo tried to reframe it like it had anything to do with the topic. Like these are two completely separate things. So like with it's honestly it's kind of like my position is more of like a meritocratic thing on this. When we look at it, because like it's if we tangentially look at the two topics, right? This is the government having a right or like having the need to limit who can vote on meritocratic grounds is on like this on the civic side and civic understanding is because the government is what deals with the civic understanding. And then when we look at the mental health institutions, the psychologists are the ones the experts on this and are the ones who can actually determine whether or not somebody is mentally fit. And there obviously should be free public mental institutions. We need to bring that shit back.
All right, you mentioned me. Can I respond?
Yeah. Again, I want to get through these questions. So his was a response, and then it's going to become another whole debate. And so again, he did indeed. Oh, fine, fuck.
We'll cover these. We should be able to cover these things.
We'll cover these. Yeah, we'll cover these in the after party stuff. Don't worry, I promise you. We're gonna have some more conversations.
That's fine.
So the question to you, Vigi. Based on what you said in the debate, do you believe, or your tail end, since you've already popped Godwin's cherry for the night, do you believe that a citizenship test would have prevented Hitler?
To an extent, right? Like, so one of the biggest problems that I have with liberalism specifically, no, I don't like, I'm not like a leftist liberal, right? Is because like the whole liberalism idea that everybody should be allowed to vote is the kind of shit that led to fucking Hitler. Like the idea that every ideology has a genuine value, which is like part of liberal principles, is the type of shit that brought us Hitler. It's the type of shit that brought us Mussolini and so many other fucking dictators that were elected. The problem is when we make it kind of goes to the question of like should people that are totalitarians be allowed to run for office? And
so real quick,
that would actually be no.
I'm going to jump in there. It was a relatively straightforward question, and I'm not sure that I heard you answer it. So let me rephrase the question a little bit. Okay, you know what? Never mind. We'll come back to this. You've already answered your question, and we're going to go on to the chatter question because I was about to start debating you myself. So this question is also for the affirmative team. But I'm going to give it to both sides because it is relevant. If a person is under 18 but is able to pass this comprehension test, do you believe they should be allowed to vote? So in other words, if they pass the affirmative requirement of sitting for this comprehension test and they pass it, the citizenship test, would you be inclined to lower the age to vote? Corpse, you first.
I would say yes, but there is some sort of a lower limit, like whether we make that like 13 or something, just because there's only so much understanding of the broader context that a kid can have. if they're like 6, right? And so they will inevitably not have the context for whatever they're voting for. But if they can pass the test, I'm fine with the voting age being lowered some amount.
Okay. AVG, if someone under 18 can pass this comprehension test, do you support their ability to vote?
No.
Okay. Why or why not?
Because of certain like biological issues. So we know that like certain learning comprehension is just not simply possible. Like even if they could for some reason game the test, it doesn't necessarily mean that they should be fit to vote. Just similarly as like the marriage, right? Should somebody be able to enter into a marriage before the age of majority or even the age of consent, just because they say that they're able to, or they can demonstrate like a knowledge of things that are a requirement for marriage? No, that doesn't remove other considerations that we might have from an ethical standpoint on their ability to do so.
Okay. And last but not least, Fiji, you're back up. Do you agree with lowering the voting age if the person is able to pass the comprehension test?
Yeah, so I actually have a policy on this that I like to bring up when debating Republicans on voting issues. The country was founded on no taxation without representation. So either once we get to voting age and turn 16, you should be able to vote, or you shouldn't pay taxes till you turn 18.
Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and give the same question over to the negative team. Just out of curiosity, it's not going to be framed quite the same, but Razor, do you support lowering the voting age? And if so, how low?
I actually have a very similar take to Vigi on that. If you can work and get paid a minimum wage at a store, you have to pay at a McDonald's, you have to pay taxes. You should be allowed to have a vote. No taxation without representation.
Okay. And Loodle is not at his desk, so we will skip him for now. Tokahanis, do you agree with lowering the voting age, and if so, how low?
Yes to 18, because if you should be allowed to fight and give your life for your country, then you should be allowed to vote for who sends you to fight.
Under.
That is the voting age, not the drinking age.
You said we go under.
Oh, I'm so
Would
sorry.
Would you lower the voting age?
No. So 18, I mean, that's pretty good. No, 18's good for that same reason.
In Canada, they're saying it's an honest mistake.
Oh, Loodle's back. Welcome back, buddy. All right, so
sorry.
question. No, it's okay. I had to skip you. Question back to you. Do you agree with lowering the voting age in America, and if so, how low would you go?
I would not. I mean, I would actually raise it if I could. I think that the idea that 18-year-old, like by the grace of God, this is something I debated in student congress when I was 17 or 18-year-olds in the high school all around me, and I've coached 18-year-olds in student congress in high school. It's like somehow by the grace of God, like you wake up your 18th birthday and you can like all of a sudden you don't have to take a test. You're like, oh my God, I understand 3 branches of government. Oh my God, I understand how the president is. Oh my God, no, it's ridiculous. I mean, I would up it to 19, like Canada's drinking age. I'd go with that.
All right. So now I'm going to roll this. Oh no, you're still up, Little. I'm going to roll this into a question that I have for you to follow up.
Yes, sir.
Does that not make it a proactive requirement that you have to get to a certain age, and you actually want it to be a higher voting age? Why is that not as repressive or constrictive of your voting rights as the comprehension test?
Well, because like if everyone gets to a certain age, it happens biologically, it happens chronologically, right? Like it happens through time. It's like if everyone doesn't die before they get a certain age, it gets there. However, if you're like, you can be 35 years old, you're raised in Baltimore, the literacy rates there are sub 25%. So you're telling me that the people who live in Baltimore, like because the fact they live in Baltimore and are oppressed by the government's horrible education policies, and they can't pass the test no matter how many times they're given it, they might be illiterate, can't vote. Like that's the difference. Is like you don't have to do anything actively. Like you get I mean, I can be 20. I could literally live in my mom's basement, chained to a radiator, like Black Snake Moan, for 40 years. And I can still vote if they give me a mail-in ballot, right?
Okay. All right. Well, it looks like the time is up on the clock. So last chance, everybody. If you haven't done it already, click the link that you see in the chat. Give us your vote. Tell us which team you think made the best arguments.
Sorry, guys, I can't mute.
And also, anybody out there?
Any other questions?
That did not. The clock's up, and the chat's not sending us any more questions. So why is my green screen fucking up?
I guess we're boring. Sorry, chat.
I thought I saw one go like the anonymous thing. That's why I was asking.
No, I did not see it. No.
I think he was just asking you for your number, buddy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm happily taken. Until she agrees to the polyamory thing, I can only stay with her.
That's next week's debate. Just joking. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, no, I do not see any other questions coming in from chat, unless somebody can tell me where that came from. We only got the 2 questions, so.
It was that Streamlabs thing.
The Streamlabs thing? Yeah,
what is
okay,
that
so
thing?
This thing right here? So this was the one about the 18, this was the one about 18.
Oh, you did ask that. Okay, I didn't know if that was the question or not. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that works.
So done and done.
I didn't know that was what it was.
And then we also had the one about the mental institutions.
Yeah.
So I thought that one was from you.
All right. So
okay, you go, sure.
Voting is locked in. I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the results. Everybody, I hope you got the chance to vote.
I fucking hope too.
I
We got a pretty decent turnout. Fantastic. So let's.
How many?
Drum roll, please. Fuck me.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Tie?
We locked it in. Dead nuts. Yeah, 50-50 vote, 18 to 18.
That's a fucking high turnout.
Yeah, it is.
Wait,
we just had another vote slide in, but it was after we already locked it in. And as far as I'm concerned, you were too late. You had plenty of chances.
Well, that's fine. Will you tell me who it was for? Just for my own.
Sure.
Masturbatory idea.
Sure. The last little. Oh, now more are starting to funnel in. Benefiting the.
Nah, it's contrarians.
Yeah.
All right,
exactly.
well, now.
But we locked it in. We locked it in. Yep, we locked it in at some point. I'm sorry, y'all.
See, if you'd have educated, if you'd have fucking sent the test out early so they could educate them, they would have known.
Right? Yeah, they would have understood. Exactly. No, 100%. Okay, so that said, I'm gonna go ahead and give us our closing.
We need JD Vance to break the tie, right? Let's get him on the phone.
Yeah, no. When it comes to the 3v3, ties can happen. This is actually the second 3v3 tie in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess that means that
we won the tipping thing hands down, but I'm not sure what the next one was.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I'd have to go back and look at the results, but which we will do. All right, everybody.
Nobody cares. Yeah.
We are going to go into a open panel session where everybody's just going to kind of bullshit. We're going to talk amongst ourselves. If the chatters do want to send in a question, you're welcome to. Also, though, if you have something specific you want to say, if you have been vetted or vouched at some point in the past, I'll give you a couple of minutes to jump in here with us and let you ask a question or two to the debaters and kind of give you your moment in the sun, as it were. But before we do that, because this is for everybody out there, this is where the VOD is going to end. So thank you again to all of tonight's debaters. Most importantly, though, thank you to all of the viewers. We wouldn't be here without each and every one of you guys. The DMZ is happening live on Twitch and YouTube and on Kick every Friday and Saturday night. So please make sure and follow, like, subscribe, do all the things. And that way you'll get the notifications every time we go live.